A very good evening to all. Welcome to session 17 of Life and Homeopathy Naras. Yes, and today's topic is something which we all desperately want, we desperately need, we are looking out for, and that is good sleep. Sleep is so integral, so vital to health. Have you envied baby sleep? Yes, I surely have. Just as oxygen and food is vital to our health, so also is a good sleep. Yes, friends. I have heard many people say that their favorite hobby is sleeping. Well, that reminds me of a famous proverb which says that a good laughter and a good sleep are the two best cures for everything. Absolutely. So today, joining us soon on our session, we have with us telling us about the importance of sleep on our health and how we could have it to our best. We will be having on our session soon Dr. Vikas Punamia. He is a chest and sleep physician, a sleep and chest physician. It's a perfect combination, I would say, because there are respiratory disorders or airway disorders which actually impact our sleep and cause sleep disorders in that way. So I would say that's the perfect combination. And talking about Dr. Vikas Punamia, he is a dynamic, highly knowledgeable doctor who, after completing his graduation from Seth GS Medical College, a college which is a dream of aspiring medicos. After having done his graduation there, he completed his post-graduation from Grant Medical College, and then for almost a decade, he was away to the UK and Australia, where he worked and he honed his skills further, and he did his specialization in sleep disorders too. After coming back, he joined Harkisondas Hospital, that is Reliance Foundation today, where he helped set up their chest and sleep medicine department. Currently, he is affiliated, he is consulting at Breach Candy Hospital, one of the reputed hospitals of Mumbai, which all of you know. Also, he is attached to hospitals like Prince Ali Khan Hospital and other hospitals in Mumbai, along with his private practice at Punamia Hospital. So looking forward to having you on our session soon. It's a real pleasure to have you today joining us on our session, because sleep is something that we all really desperately need to the best possible. A very good evening to you, Dr. Punamia. How have you been?
Good evening. I'm good. How have you been?
All good, all good. It's really a privilege having you here with us today on our session.
Thank you very much.
Because sleep is something which is very vital, and I'm sure our viewers are waiting to listen to you as to how they could have the best of sleep that is needed for the body. So, Doctor, going ahead with our questions. Yeah. The first question I would like to put forth is that, what is the importance of sleep on our health?
So, sleep is an essential function that allows your body and your mind to recharge, leaving you refreshed and alert when you wake up. Healthy sleep also helps keep the body and the mind healthy and staves off a lot of diseases.
So, in short, it is very critical for our health, be it the mind or the body, and it impacts, I think, everything from weight and metabolism to all the brain functions too, right, doctor?
Absolutely.
Okay, so going ahead, Nowadays, many people complain of insomnia, that is inability to sleep, or as we put it, inability to continue to sleep during that sleep cycle. So why is it so common today, doctor?
Insomnia is it affects almost 35% of adults. It is marked by problems of getting sleep or staying asleep through the night and sleeping as long as you would really like to in the morning. Uh, it can obviously have very serious effects, leading to excessive daytime sleepiness, a higher risk of auto accidents, as well as widespread health effects because of sleep deprivation. Common causes, I think one of the most common cause in today's day and age is stress. A lot of stress which we all face, and I think in the current environment I can't even talk more about that, and or more emphasize more about stress in the current
Right.
pandemic environment. uh, Also an irregular sleep schedule, poor sleeping habits, mental health disorders like anxiety, depression, which have become much more common and probably are like chicken and egg with sleep, or rather poor sleep. Physical illnesses, pains, medications, neurological problems, specific sleep disorders also can cause insomnia. And for many people, a combination of these factors can initiate and exacerbate the insomnia.
Right, right. So, you have already told us all the ill effects related to insomnia. First of all, what could be causing it, where you have numbered stress as one of the vital reasons why so much percentage of insomnia is there today. And also the effects, the ill effects, even connected to accidents, where our reflexes, our coordinations are impacted because of lack of sleep.
Very true.
So, yes. So, many a times people say that my mind is clustered with thoughts and I'm unable to sleep, or it happens that they feel that watching the TV will divert their mind and they will be able to fall asleep. But it so happens they may fall asleep while watching a movie or seeing TV. But then that sleep doesn't last long, and they commonly say the moment I go to actually lie down on bed, I'm away. So as we go ahead, I'm sure you would be telling us the impact of TV and the blue light as we go ahead. So we keep it for a little later. Doctor, uh, what is the time usually that one should go to sleep, or is it the same time that one should sleep and one should wake up? How many hours of sleep does an adult ideally need?
So most people, as you would know, have to have their sleep hours as per their professional, their family, and social lives. Their awakening times are largely determined by these responsibilities and commitments. Whereas when they go to sleep, often de- uh, depends on their personal preferences and evening activities. Uh, the aim should be to try and have a regular sleep schedule, but don't go to bed if you're not really sleepy. Get up at the same time every day, even on weekend and during vacations. That will help regulate your rhythm of sleep. Most adults basically need around 7 to 9 hours of sleep per day, and that's a given. Figuring how to get that amount is another story. So, if you need to wake up at 7 in the morning, you need to just calculate backwards, say probably 8 hours, and set a bedtime of around 11 p.m. For example, some people are larks. Larks are morning types, while others are owls, like night owls. I'm probably one of those. So, and still others are anywhere between these two patterns. What you are depends on your individual circadian rhythm, your 24-hour internal clock, which will regulate your sleepiness, alertness, various body functions. In other words, no magical one size fits all schedule that suits everyone. But the best approach is to match your sleep times to your physiological rhythms and get the 7 to 9 hours that you need regularly. Optimal windows of opportunity usually start with a bedtime between 8 p.m. and 12 p.m. 12 a.m. Sorry.
Okay, so this tells us that the amount of hours that is so vital in adults, but it averages anywhere between 7 to 9, and so on average of 8 hours that is there. And since most of us know what time we have to wake up depending on our work schedule, we can calculate those 8 hours and go to bed at that time.
Exactly.
So it's like knowing how important sleep is. Well, we humans sleep for 1/3 of our lives. So I was just calculating, it's like almost 18 years for me, if I have to say that. And but it is this 1/3 time of our day that we sleep is what helps to make that 2/3 part of the day most fruitful. As Dr. Punamia said about the hours that we should calculate and give it the best so that we can make those 2/3 that timing most fruitful. And also it helps our body's healing processes, as we know. So where the timing is concerned, where doctor said about 8 p.m. to 12 a.m., that is where we should see that we fall asleep because of various reasons. The doctor would come to probably a little later. But that reminds me that even during our young days, I remember hearing this very commonly. Uh, Early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. Well, going ahead with this, I would like to know more about this circadian rhythm that our body is related
Uh,
to.
so the circadian rhythm, it is basically a 24-hour cycles that are part of the body's internal clock. These run in the background for various essential processes and functions. And one of the most important and well-known circadian rhythm, obviously, is the sleep-wake cycle.
Right. Okay. So viewers, I'm sure you understood what Dr. Punamia has told about the circadian rhythm, where it's the clock, body clock related to light and dark most commonly, and you have the sleep wake cycle, and you could have other circadian rhythm related to your body temperature, could be a hormone secretion, where it's not the same throughout the day, but depending on certain timings that these hormones are released, or it is your sleep that you feel sleepy and you have your waking hours. So this circadian rhythm to humans is very important. But what about those people, doctor, who are into shift duty? How does it impact them?
So 1 in 3 shift workers, they experience excessive sleepiness in the night because humans are not nocturnal creatures. Unless the workers properly shift their circadian rhythm for night work, their brains will continue to send drowsy messages to them, drowsy signals at night, which is naturally programmed to do. Many shift workers have jobs that naturally require them to be on high alert, make quick, important life and death decisions. I think, for an example, doctors, they have to do night shifts at regular intervals, sometimes more than 12 hours. And that's what makes shift work sleep disorder incredibly dangerous. These shift workers are also at increased risk for heart disease, diabetes, and other and cancers even. So I think it's very important to recognize that and help them as we can.
Right. So, where shift duty people are concerned, I think also another thing is that during day, where they have to cover those 8 hours, they do not get those 8 hours also because not everybody is sleeping at that time, and they have certain errands to complete or do, and they are lacking their sleep, or they're depriving themselves of the sleep, which at least if it would be 8 hours, somewhere they could compensate where health is concerned. So, is there something, because we know that certain industries, as you said, it's the healthcare, be it the healthcare sector, be it the aviation industry, where these type of duty hours are going to be there, and night shifts are very common for people. So, is there something that we can help them out with so that they can, to their best, have a healthy life?
So sleep consistency is a key for these employees working night shift
Right.
schedules. If you wake up at 5 p.m. for your night shift and normally go to sleep at 8 a.m. after getting home from work, then you should try and maintain this sleep wake schedule on your days off as well. I know, easier said than done, given the fact that everyone else is awake in the house and probably you have children on the
Right.
weekend shouting around. But yes, that is something for their family members to also understand that it is for the good of these people and their health that they need to compromise that. Okay. Light and noise exposure is also very important. So probably try drawing the shades, sleeping with the eye mask if your bedroom tends to be bright during the day. Earplugs, and there are these white noise machines. I'm not sure how effective they are, but definitely earplugs can be effective for blocking outside noises. Unless you're on call as a doctor, then turning off your phone while you sleep. Uh, Before going to bed, consider a hot shower or a bath, meditation, other relaxing activity. Consuming alcohol before bed, even in the mornings, can lead to sleep
Right.
disruption. Uh, there are other things that you can do while at work as well to maintain yourself awake when you're at work is drinking coffee, but only in moderation. Try not to consume too much caffeine because that's going to affect your sleep later on. Make sure that at least 3 to 4 hours prior to having to go to sleep, do not drink any coffee. Get the blood moving. Make sure that whenever you have a scheduled break, try and do a brief jog or something at your workplace, a small amount of exercise, just to get an energy boost.
Right.
Otherwise, you can also take a power nap rather than an exercise, and that power nap of 10 to 20 minutes can be ideal. For some shift workers, they actually practice something called a coffee nap, where they drink the
Okay.
coffee, take a nap for 20 minutes, and by that time the coffee has kicked in. So that
Right.
works well for them. Uh, very, very, very important, exercise caution. Make sure that all people who work and have sleep related problems will be at higher risk on the job for on the job errors. So they can cause accidents and they can be part of accidents.
True.
Also, this is very particularly true for employees who have newly gone to shift work because they're not used to it. Consider a post-work news. Drowsy driving accidents are one of the worst hazard after shift work. I am very, very saddened to say that while I was in the UK, we actually had a very young doctor who had a crash and died after doing a night shift because she slept on the wheel, unfortunately.
Mm.
So I think this is something that we need to be very aware of and need to take a lot of care about these people.
Right. So very nicely put, Doctor, where one has to actually juggle and balance between duty and health. That is what is very vital over here. And I would say it really needs a great willpower to do shift duty, a night duty, and to maintain one's health. Because usually people doing a night duty, they are sort of, they have a craving for stimulants, coffee, as you said, or even they tend to binge is what I have seen, having more of sweets and carbohydrates when you're sleep deprived, and tendency to gain weight, obesity, and all that health issues follow. So I think it's really a
Yeah.
willpower. Hats off to people who are into this, and still, as Dr. Punamia has said, you can still maintain your health if you follow certain guidelines, as Dr. Punamia has just put forth to us.
In this, can I just add one more point? I think it's very important that not just the employee does it, but even the employer supports them because it's
Right.
very, very important for them to have the support of the employer as well as the family.
True. Very true. Absolutely. Yes. So going ahead, Doctor, what is sleep apnea? Because
So,
I know it's a very serious condition and people should know about it.
it's one of the most under-recognized medical conditions. It is a condition which is marked basically by abnormal breathing during sleep. People with sleep apnea will have multiple extended pauses in breathing while they sleep. And these temporary lapses basically can cause low quality sleep, but more importantly, they affect the body's supply of oxygen. Because when your airway collapses and the air cannot go through it, the brain recognizes it's not getting the oxygen it needs. So what happens is the brain tries to wake you up to the extent where these muscles will contract. And that basically keeps disrupting your sleep every now and again during the whole night. And this will obviously lead to excessive daytime sleepiness. The person affected is you wake up very unrefreshed. in the morning. You may have morning headaches. You're quite irritable, and this
Right.
obviously percolates down to everyone in the family then. And limited attention span, difficulty to concentrate, snoring. Snoring is basically, what is snoring is just the sound that is produced when the airways don't actually collapse completely, but narrow considerably to the extent that air can very barely pass through, and that sound then gets transmitted as vibrations and as snoring. And the louder the snoring, contrary to common belief that अरे बहुत अच्छा सो रहा है, nahi,
Yes.
it is the worst thing, because very loud snoring is actually that the air
More
can
obstruction.
barely pass, you know.
Correct.
So that is something to be very aware of.
Right. So I'm sure viewers, you have understood what sleep apnea is all about, and it's not something which can be taken lightly because it could have serious complications, serious consequences on our body, because ultimately, what does our brain, our body needs? It needs oxygen, and that gets impacted when you're having sleep apnea, as Dr. put about as to what sleep apnea is all about. So you may think you're sleeping well because you're snoring loudly, but not only is your partner affected by it, your own body is also highly affected by the snoring that is there, because it is related to sleep apnea most of the times. But how do you know that you're having a sleep apnea? You have heard about the snoring from your partner, but the consequences, as Dr. Punamia told us, that in spite of having a so-called 7 to 8 hours sleep, still during the day you will feel tired, or when you wake up you're not feeling fresh. So you need to know more about what is the reason behind it. And Dr. Punamia, I know that you have a sleep study lab at your hospital.
Yeah.
So how exactly, or what do you do?
So we have one of the most advanced labs as of now in Bombay, and basically what happens is the patient comes in around 9:30. We tag them with the leads. So basically, it's what we are trying to study is the sleep waves, the muscle waves, the uh, cardiac waves, so ECG patterns during sleep, and eye movements, the respiratory movements, as well as the oxygen levels and the oxygen requirements at that time. So all of this is measured by, because what we do is we put leads on their head, their chin, near the eyelids, chin. There's a cannula at the nostril. There's the oximeter at the finger. There is a band around the chest and the tummy, and we have leads on the arms and legs. Believe me, everyone tells me with all this paraphernalia, how am I going to sleep? But everyone sleeps. And we're able to basically just getting around 6 to 7 hours of recording, and which we then analyze and are able to determine whether these patients may have. It is basically to assess sleep disorders. Most common, obviously, is sleep apnea, but there are other sleep disorders which may be also picked up, like restless legs, where people are getting frequent leg cramps and moving the legs so much that their sleep is disturbed. And those sort of diseases are also picked up on this.
Right. That's so vital. The sleep study is so important to know what exactly our sleep, or rather uh, lack of sleep because of problems, sleep disorders, is impacting or doing to our bodies. Doctor, we have a question. What is the impact of sleep apnea, or the long-term effects of on brain and heart?
So, sleep apnea is an independent risk factor for high blood pressure, diabetes, control of diabetes, control of asthma. It increases your risk for coronary artery disease, increases your risk for strokes. It has recent studies have actually shown people who have got moderate sleep apnea, their brainwave patterns are pretty similar to those with early Alzheimer's. So, probably even associated with early dementia. And there are some studies which are showing that there may be some association with certain types of cancers too. So, all in all, sleep apnea is quite a significant disorder, and something that should not be neglected, something that we should be very seriously looking to diagnose and pick up if we feel there is some problem, and then also treat it.
So early diagnosis is early treatment and prevention of the diseases that you just enumerated. Is that what I feel? And I think that's a wonderful thing that your sleep lab does about. Doctor, going ahead, if I have to ask, is it good to have an alarm to wake up, or should one wake up naturally?
So, while naturally waking up is the most obvious right choice, the key is at the end of the day getting that 7 to 9 hours of sleep. If you need an alarm to wake you up at it, then probably it may be important for that alarm to be in the initial period to get used to that. But I think usually by that, after a few days, people start telling me, I wake up just before the alarm goes off, I'm already awake.
Yes.
So ideally, you're going to land up waking up naturally.
Right. So that's good. So people may use the alarm just in the beginning, but once they have got regulated with the waking time, then they don't need an alarm. And as you said, they wake up beforehand. Okay.
If you're needing the alarm every day, that means you're not getting your right amount of sleep.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, Doctor, coming back to what we had earlier said that we will discuss later was on about when we said about TV. So we are coming to electronic devices and we are using one of them.
Yeah.
So what is the impact of electronic devices, be it mobile, TV, on our sleep?
As I always say, how mobile devices have revolutionized our generation, the same time they are the bane of our society as well. Electronic backlit devices like cell phones, tablets, readers, computers, TVs, they all emit short wavelength enriched light, which is also known as blue light commonly. Fluorescent and LED lights in your houses, they also emit blue light. These have all been shown to reduce or delay the natural production of the hormone called melatonin. Melatonin is important because that is what induces sleep. And when the natural production of melatonin in the evening is reduced, it causes a decreased feeling of sleepiness. The blue light can also reduce the amount of time you spend in slow wave as well as rapid eye movement sleep, which is two stages of sleep which are the most vital for cognitive function.
Sure. Okay, so here what we understand is blue light actually, the melatonin that was released, that is the hormone viewers that is needed for us to get a good sleep. So while that is our body is releasing that, our blue light is what is actually cutting that off, and it is going to impact our sleep is what we understand from Dr. Punamia, and it confuses our clock, our body's clock. And often I have heard people say, night I don't get sleep and morning I can't wake up. And that actually many a times could be because of the blue light which you just told us, be it a mobile or be it the TV. So technology is as much a hazard at times as much as a boon, and we need to balance between the two. Okay, so many a times people say that I make up for lost sleep on weekends. Can lost sleep actually be made up for in this manner?
So, sleeping in on weekends to catch up on sleep is a common approach. Unfortunately, it's not clear if the sleep actually compensates for the sleep debt or it simply represents a return to the sleep patterns. Concern with napping and sleeping in on weekends is that when you're underslept, a little extra rest will also give you a false sense of recovery. You may feel better for a little while, but the snowballing effect of sleep loss is a debt that takes longer to repay, just like Mr. Malia's bank loans.
That's right. Okay. So in short, it's very difficult to say that you can make up for lost sleep. Rather, it may affect your circadian rhythm when you're trying to change the cycle on the weekend.
Yes, research has shown that it can take up to 4 days to recover from 1 hour of lost sleep and up to 9 days to eliminate the sleep debt. So full recovery from sleep debt returns the body to baseline, but the amount of sleep that you would need to recover is a lot.
True. It is like saying that if I have fasted for 3 days, now I'm going to eat the food of 3 days on the fourth day, which is not possible, which is absolutely not. Okay. So, doctor, where afternoon nap is concerned, it refreshes many people. They feel good about it. It rejuvenates them. But what about its impact on people who have sleeping problems or insomnia?
So while napping isn't replacement for lost sleep, it can help you feel more rested during the day. The nap may be particularly helpful in shift workers or people who can't maintain a consistent sleep schedule. Even a short power nap can refresh the rest of your day. If you take a nap, then try and keep it brief. Nap for less than an hour and especially before 3 p.m. so it doesn't disrupt your night sleep.
Right. So, in short, afternoon nap actually impacts different people differently. It may not impact some, it may not impact their sleep at all. Some, even if they sleep for 10 minutes, they find it difficult to sleep at night. So, depending on one's body's
One needs to
need.
figure out what is best for them.
Right. Yes. So, doctor, some people feel that they will get used to the sleep that they have, which is the less sleep. Say, for example, if they're sleeping for 5 hours or 6 hours, they feel my body will get used to it. So, is that so? That over a period of time, body will get used to that less sleep?
As I said earlier, sleep debt, also called sleep deficit, it is the difference between the amount of sleep someone needs and what someone gets. So if
Correct.
your body needs 8 hours of sleep but only gets 6 hours, you've already created 2 hours of sleep debt. And sleep debt is something which is cumulative. So every day you go to sleep 30 to 60 minutes later than usual, you're just adding up the hours. Accumulating sleep debt doesn't always mean you may feel tired. People cognitively tend to adapt to this chronic sleep restriction, and they may not feel so sleepy during the daytime, but there is a definitive decline in their physical and mental performance.
So, in short, they're tricking their body, but the body doesn't get tricked, it will show its real colors. That is what is going to happen if we are going to consider or think that our body will get used to it. So, now that we are talking of that lack of sleep is not good, so I want to ask you, is sleeping more good for health?
As with everything else, nothing in excess is ever good, as is too much sleep. For most adults, getting 7 to 9 hours is ideal. Small percentage of people may need 10 hours, but most adults sleeping more hours than recommended may actually be a health concern. It may either be suggestive of a sleep issue, or it may actually increase your risk of obesity, headaches, back pains, heart disease. And recent studies have actually shown that they put the body at risk for metabolic issues like diabetes, hypertension, dyslipidemia as well.
Right. So, doctor, where we spoke about more sleep also not good, lack of sleep also not good. Coming to the next question, we are coming to the end of our session. We will go ahead with one or two questions more. So, is night lamp good, or does it impact our sleep? Should a night lamp be on?
So, as I said earlier, also about melatonin. So, basically, any sort of light in your room in the night is going to disturb the natural melatonin production. And why does this matter? Because melatonin is the hormone that promotes sleep, and even with your eyelids closed, the light is detected, and your brain gets confused about what time it is. And because of this, the body doesn't produce as much melatonin. This doesn't just impair your sleep, but being exposed to the light throughout the night impacts hormone function and is connected to even depression and increased cancer risk. For all these reasons, keeping your room as dark as possible is really the best. Coming to the second part of your question, blue lights are the worst for your mood, and white lights aren't far behind, but red lights don't have the same negative effects on your health as the white lights do. So probably yes, if you absolutely have to, try and keep that white light probably that red light probably next to your bathroom door or something so that you don't stub your toe when going to the
True.
toilet.
Right.
But as far as possible, darkness is your best friend at night.
Okay, good. So as much as possible, I know we adults don't have that fear and we can sleep in the dark. Maybe if the kids need it at times, you could keep the red light on. Or if elderly people who have to visit the washroom, maybe you need to treat the problem that for which you need to
Exactly.
repeatedly visit the washroom. It could be a prostate, it could be diabetes, whatever it
It could be
would be.
sleep apnea.
Yes, absolutely. So that needs further studies, and one can connect with Dr. Punamia for that. So, well, Doctor, before we end the session, we cannot end it without asking for tips on good sleep, though a little bit of it already you have covered in the beginning of the session. Can we have that a
Sure.
little more?
So basically, set your sleep schedule, having a fixed wake up time, prioritizing your sleep. Do not overdo naps. Follow a nightly routine. Keep your routine consistent. A hot water shower 2 hours prior to bedtime. The hot water relaxes your body muscles, and as the body cools down, it sleeps better. Have some 30 minutes before you go to bed for winding down, like probably listening to soft music, some stretching, light stretching, some reading, relaxation exercises, anything that puts you in a state of calm, makes you forget about the daily worries. Dim your lights, try and keep away from bright lights because they hinder the production of melatonin. Uh, Unplug from electronics. 30 to
True,
60 minute pre-bed buffer time. That should be device free. Okay.
true.
Test methods of relaxation. Instead of trying to make falling asleep your goal, make relaxation your goal. Because when you have relaxation, focus on the relaxation, you're going to get better sleep. Don't toss and turn. It helps to have a healthy mental connection between going to bed and actually being asleep. Now, if you, after for any reason, don't get sleep between after 20 minutes, get out of bed, do a bit of stretching or something, probably read a book, do anything that calms you in low light, and then try and fall asleep again. Tossing and turning will not help you get good sleep. Also, cultivate good daily habits like getting daylight exposure to light. Being indoors all the time is not helpful. Being physically active is very important. Regular exercise uh, makes it easier to sleep at night, but make sure that any heavy exercise is at least 6 hours prior to your bedtime. Don't do late evening or late night exercising. Don't smoke, obviously. Reduce your alcohol consumption. Everyone feels that alcohol makes it easier to fall asleep, but actually it disrupts your sleep and makes the rest of the night worse, and it spoils the quality of your sleep. So avoid it late in the evenings. Cut down on the caffeine in the afternoon and evening because it's a stimulant.
Right.
Don't dine very late, or rather, don't dine very heavy. Also, try and keep your night meals light, and restrict in-bed activity. I always say the bed is only for two things: sleep and sex.
Right.
Nothing else. Do not bring your work to the bed. Optimize your bedroom. Have some comfortable. Make sure your mattress is comfortable for you. The pillow is comfortable.
Right.
Use bedding which is comfortable. Uh, Make sure that the temperature is what you like and what you are comfortable with. Some may like it cooler, some may like it warmer. You need to figure out what is best for you. Make sure you block out light. Have curtains which are light blockers as far as possible. Drown out the noise. Earplugs can help you. But if you don't find them comfortable, there are white noise machines and they can sort of drown out the noises. Sometimes even having a calming scent like lavender can actually create a positive space for sleep. I think those are pretty much
Yes.
most of the tips I would give to my patients and hope
Wow.
that they can use them and get better sleep.
I think you have enumerated and covered everything related to sleep and what one needs for good sleep. One of our viewers is asking what is the best time to sleep, and well, doctor has already told us anything between 8 p.m. and 12 midnight is the timing that you have to decide, keeping in time what is your waking hour. So you have to calculate 8 hours back and see where it fits between 8 p.m. to 12 a.m. That is what Dr. Punamia has already told us about it. And another viewer has some queries related to some problems, because of which the sleep is impacted. Well, it's not the sleep, the problem that has to be taken care of, the health issues that are there. Many a times, pain could be one of the reasons because of which you are not getting sleep. So one has to tackle at that level, and sleep is be taken care of. Right, Dr. Punamia?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So it was a wonderful session, and I'm really very happy that we had you on our session today, because sleep is so vital, so integral to our health. And I would say that without sleep, I don't think we can actually think, ideate, or plan, or be creative. All our success is basically connected to a good sleep, because planning, the thought process, creating is all based on having a good sleep. And whatever I have read, I have about successful people, one habit I know about theirs is that they are early to bed and early to rise. That's what I know about them. And another thing, often people say that बस मुझे अच्छी नींद आ जाए, मेरी आधी प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व हो जाएगी. I would say आधी नहीं, सब प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व हो जाएगी. Right, doctor?
सुकून की नींद.
Yes, yes. So with this, doctor, we will come to the end of our session. Viewers, it was really nice having you on our session. So wake up with determination and sleep with complete satisfaction. Don't forget to share. Thank you so much, Dr. Punamia. It has been great having you with us today. And I would want our viewers to share this video with their friends, with their relatives, so that everyone known to you in your circle can get a good sleep, and that automatically and surely helps a good relationships also. Yes. So don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe to our social media handles, be it Facebook, be it Insta, or our YouTube. And once again, thanking Dr. Vikas Punamia for the wonderful insight, the knowledge that he has given us related to sleep, the benefits, and what is the impact if we do not have the needed sleep. I would thank you once again. And with this, we end today's session. And viewers, we shall be back again next week, same day, same time. Thank you so much, viewers, and thank you, Dr. Punamia.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.